How you start your day is arguably one of the most important things that you can do. And when you're talking about the brain, that's probably one of the bigger levers that you can pull. So I've got Louisa Nicola, who's a neurophysiologist. Louisa, I'd like for you to kind of walk me through what the ideal morning routine is for optimal brain performance, to really just feel that spark and feel alert and feel focused. I put a link down below for 20% off of the Create Gummies. These are the creatine gummies that I use. They're 1 gram creatine monohydrate gummies. Now, the entire point behind Create was to sort of get rid of the stigma behind creatine in the first place. It's not just for building muscle. There's literature surrounding fat loss. There's literature surrounding brain performance. There's literature surrounding inflammation. There's a lot of data out there, and it's probably one of the most, if not the most, studied ergogenic aid that's out there. So no matter what your goal is, I can assure you there's an application for it. So that link down below is for 20% off the Create Gummies. That link is in the top line of the description. Again, 20% off a bag of those gummies or however much you want. And the best thing about them is you can adjust your dose accordingly with like 1 gram in the morning, 1 gram with lunch, 1 gram with dinner, maybe more. You can go all the way up to 10, 15 grams, whatever you really choose to do, and you can titrate that dose accordingly. So again, big thank you to Create, and that link is in the top line of the description.
Yeah, well, first of all, everybody is different. Everybody has different wake up times. At Neuroathletics, we try and get all of our high performers to wake up at 7 a.m. And this is generally because we get people to fall asleep at around 10:30. That's the sweet spot. And by the way, when we're talking about a morning routine, we should know that the morning routine starts the night before. So if you are going to bed at a reasonable hour, which I believe is 10 p.m., then you're setting yourself up for a really great morning. If you're going to bed at midnight, you're probably not going to be setting yourself up for a great morning. So the way I like to look at a morning routine is you want to safeguard your brain as much as you can, because you don't know what's going to happen during the day. So how do we safeguard our brain? The first thing that I like to tell everybody to do is get your morning sunlight. So if you're waking up at 7 a.m., the first thing you want to do is go outside on your balcony, go outside in your yard, or even go for a walk and get around 15 to 20 minutes of sunlight. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but Louisa, I don't have time for that. I think everyone can make time for at least maybe 5 minutes of morning sunlight. That's the first thing. The second thing you want to do is, if you can, practice breath work. And I'll tell you why. We get stressed throughout the day. It's 2023. I live in New York. It's a very stressful city. So I know that I'm going to be stressed during the day. We don't realize how much we actually hold our breath during a stressful moment. When you hold your breath, what are you doing? You're not getting oxygen to the brain for a certain period of time, albeit it might be a very small amount, but you're still giving your brain a lot less oxygen than what it needs throughout the day. So if you safeguard your brain in the morning with breath work, you know that, okay, I've calmed myself down in the morning, I've done my 10 minutes of breath work, I'm safeguarding my brain. So I always do 10 minutes of breath work after a morning walk. And then I jump straight into my ice bath. Yeah, so I have an ice bath and I get into it, and this is mainly, and if you haven't got an ice bath, that's okay. You can maybe do cold water immersion with a 2-minute cold shower. But the ice bath has done amazing things for me, and I've actually been trying to figure out when is the best time to get into the ice bath. And it is, for me and for a lot of my high performers, it's first thing in the morning. And this is what it's doing. When we get into the cold, if it's 41 degrees or even if it's 48 or even 50 degrees, you're getting a massive and rapid release of norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is interesting because it's both a neurochemical, neurotransmitter that gets released, but it can also act as a hormone, whether it's released in the body. But when it's released in the brain, norepinephrine is involved in vigilance and focus. So you've probably realized this. I know you have an ice bath. When you get into the ice bath and when you get out, do you feel hyper-focused?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when would you want to be hyper-focused? It's first thing going into your work day. So I always start my morning with a 2-minute, or I'm working up to a 3-minute cold immersion.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then, do you do any kind of sauna after that, or do you just kind of let your body warm up naturally? What do you do?
Well, that's what I figured out. I don't do anything afterwards. I've read a lot of studies about having you warm your body up naturally. So instead of having a hot shower afterwards, I let my body warm up naturally. So that's when I generally go to the gym or go for my run.
Beautiful. And I guess if you could consolidate them all too, you can, get in your cold plunge, warm up by natural sunlight while going for a walk or going for a jog or something like that.
And look, your morning routine shouldn't stress you out. There's so much happening right now on social media around a morning routine, and you have to do this and you have to do that. You have to find something that is good for you. And I always come from a place of science, and I always come from a place of what is going to best suit you and your brain as you work throughout the day. And we know that there's massive benefits to cold water immersion, the ones that I just mentioned, but there's also a number of different other benefits. But doing it first thing in the morning, coupling it with morning sunlight exposure is probably the best thing. And then I get asked a lot about as well, like exercise. When's the best time to exercise? It's generally at that mid-morning time as well, because you want to keep exercise far away from sleep, because it obviously wakes you up and gets you pumped. So
yes, I have noticed that I've overall had better sleep patterns when I don't roll out of bed and immediately go into high intensity workouts, which was kind of my MO for a very long time. I would just, sort of almost literally roll out of bed, throw my shoes on and rock and roll. I put clothes on too, but that would be it, right? It's just like, then I'm off to the races. And I was realizing that I was getting like compounding cortisol dumps, right? I was getting the cortisol dump that was coming from, awakening, along with the additional sort of artificial cortisol dump, if you want to call it that, of caffeine plus a workout. And next thing I know, it's like my body was like jolting awake in an anticipatory fashion, like earlier and earlier and earlier. And it was just this cycle of my body getting ready for war, because that was the war that I was inflicting upon it. And I realized just that. I'm like, if I give myself a little bit of time after waking up and actually just enjoy and smell the roses a little bit, spend time with my wife and kids, and then go to the gym, even though not everyone has the luxury of doing that with time, it just made all the difference in my overall just parasympathetic tone.
Yeah, I actually am the same. I used to get up and go straight to the gym, and it actually wasn't that effective. So I changed up my morning routine. And one thing that I included, which is what I think everyone should do as well, is I write down my top 5 things that I need to do throughout the day. And what that does is just imagine your brain as this organ that it's extremely intelligent, but it's also extremely dumb. So it's driven, you have to have a goal every single day, or it will just flow depending on how you feel. And we get distracted easy by social media, by things around us, and your brain just needs to be focused on one specific target. And if you are able to write down during the morning the top 5 things that you need to achieve in the day, your brain is set to understand, okay, great, the brain knows I've got to do this, I've got to have this meeting, I've got to send this email, and then I've got to have dinner with the husband and the kids. Your brain knows, and it likes to have that structure. So that's probably the last thing I'll add to the morning routine.
Is there a difference between writing it down on paper versus putting it in your phone? I always feel better if I physically am writing it down.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any science around that, but I too feel a lot better if I write something down. It's like journaling, right? There's these now like audio journals, and you can talk into an audio journal and tell your phone how you're feeling, and it's very therapeutic because you feel like you're talking to somebody, right? Which is great. But when you write something down, it's also extremely therapeutic, because one thing that your brain wants is all of the distractions in your head. It wants to just get it down onto somebody else or onto a piece of paper. So I always find that writing things down just feels like it's like I'm emptying it from my brain.
And perhaps it's less risk of distraction too, right? Notifications and things like that.
Yeah, we've got this thing called the cognitive capacity theory. So basically it suggests that the way that we learn, there's 2 aspects of learning. So we can learn by actually looking at the facts. So for example, if the question was name all the different parts of the body. If you're trying to learn, the different muscles of the arm, you learn it by actually having the words written out. For example, like, here is the bicep, here is the tendon, here is the bone. But if you add in images, like here's a photo that's a distraction for the brain. So your brain just wants to know the actual facts, but we get distracted. It's called extraneous load. We get distracted by all of the different colors and the visuals. It's a lot for our brain. We don't think about that. But, it's a sensory organ, so we see colors, we see figures, and we have to match all of that up with the words. So it's a lot to take on for our brain. It's like this cognitive capacity. So when you think about that, the more distractions that you can eliminate, the better you'll be throughout the day and the better your brain will perform. And that's why I do this top 5 goals of the day, because I want my brain completely distraction free. It needs to know exactly what it's doing, why it's doing it, and what's the level of importance that I need to get it done.
When we talk distractions, it just makes me think, like, what happens to the brain from a physiological standpoint when we roll out of bed and the first thing we do is check our email?
Oh gosh, I would say the worst thing about that is it's actually creating an addiction. I mean, you said email, I immediately think of Instagram, okay? Because that's sometimes it's what I do. I'll just roll out of bed and that's the first thing sometimes that I check. And you're just adding to the amount of cognitive load that you can take in during the day. The way you got to think about this is, imagine you wake up and you've got, actually I'll get a bottle of water, okay? Every day you wake up and you've got a full bottle of water. Let's just say this is the brain and the water is your brain's energy. Every sip that we take, that is basically a notification, because your brain has to take a lot of its cognitive load to look at the notification, react to it, respond to it. So you've just given, within the first 5 minutes, you've just given a part of your brain energy to a notification. Then you have to get up, you have to get dressed. It takes, some more cognitive load. The more that you see, the more colors, the more reactions, you're still adding to that cognitive load. So before you even leave the house, you're down here with the water. And then you have to couple on driving, responding to emails, going to work. See, what we're generally seeing is at around 2 p.m., because I work with a lot of Wall Street executives, at around 2 p.m., they're seeing this massive slump in their performance. Louisa, I'm fatigued. It's 2 p.m. It's like, because I look at what they've done from the moment they wake up to the moment, to 2 p.m., they've drained all of their cognitive capacity through, just through regular things. It's like, well, we have to conserve it. So looking at your email first thing in the morning is definitely not going to do anything for your focus.
Yeah, it's probably about really choosing your battles at that point. I think the operative word you used there was conserve, because I was going to ask, and there's no way to really refill that throughout the day. I'm assuming that comes with sleep and...
Yeah, you can have a power nap, which is great, but then that's when supplementation comes into place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of morning routine, let's kind of jump into that. Are there any supplements that you might recommend people take in the morning?
The only one that I recommend taking in the morning is EPA DHA, and that's because I like to prescribe 4 grams a day. So that is 2 grams of EPA and 2 grams of DHA. And if you have a look at the actual amounts that it has per capsule, it's a lot to take. So I separate those. So I do my 2 grams of EPA DHA in the morning, and then I do it as well at night. Everything else I time around exercise. So you would know that one of the biggest myths is jumping into an ice bath directly after exercise. It's the same with supplementation. You don't really want to have it too close to exercise. So part of my morning routine is having my EPA DHA.
And then, well, speaking of supplementation as well, I mean, coffee, caffeine, still kind of a supplement. What's your take on starting your day with caffeine? Do you have a recommended protocol with that, or?
I don't. I'm actually not I don't prescribe to the wait 90 minutes to have your coffee. It is, if you're a morning person and you require coffee, then you should have your caffeine whenever that best suits you. I'm also a breakfast person. I do believe in eating in a window per day, but I don't believe in, if you feel like you are hungry at that time, then you have your food. Don't have to wait and kill yourself until midday to have your food.
Well, it's an interesting point, because you talk about the cognitive like load and your demand, and as the day goes on, you lose that ability. I've often said that if you follow the breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper, where you have a larger breakfast, you're making it so that you are not having to make a lot of food decisions later in the day when you're cognitively drained. So from a body composition perspective, you're eating a bolus of your calories when you have high cognitive function and you can have better decision making. So then the bolus of your calories is coming in as, hey, I'm making a concerted effort to eat good quality foods, versus flip-flopped, you've been kind of starving yourself throughout the day, dinner comes along, you're starving, you're drained, so you opt for something that's more convenient and probably not so good for you.
That's it. That is exactly right, because right at the end of the day, that's when we make our worst decisions.
Yeah, we've all been in that situation where you get home from work and you just open up the pantry. I've always kind of said in videos, it's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It's like you walk in and you're like, what am I doing? I'm just eating because you're tired and you're exhausted.
And that's why food prepping is a huge part of my life as well. Like I on Sunday, I'm food prepping so I can have those meals so I don't reach for something that is not good for me.
Do you have sort of a go-to morning routine breakfast?
I don't, and right now in my career, I'm a very, very extremely busy person. The one thing that I do have though, which I don't know, maybe you can provide insight on this, I have a protein shake every single morning. And by protein shake, it's a protein smoothie, and it's the exact same. I'm actually a creature of habit. I eat the exact same thing every single day, unless I'm going out for dinner. And so my protein smoothie is literally, it's one banana, it's almond milk, and I have a scoop of protein and a scoop of collagen peptides.
I think that's perfect. I think maybe if I could poke holes in it, I'd say maybe add some more antioxidant rich fruits. Bananas are good, but they're, if you threw a handful of blueberries in there, you might get that anthocyanin effect. You might even feel a little bit, which, it brings up a good point on creatures of habit and routine. The brain seems to like routine. Am I wrong?
Yeah, the brain loves routine, and you are not primed for, your brain is primed for survivability. That's all it cares about. It is, it cares about reproduction, and then how am I going to survive? They're the only two things. So it doesn't care about whether you are happy. It doesn't care about anything other than survive. So in order to have a good performing brain, you need to ensure that your brain knows that it's surviving and that it's not stressed. Well, how do you do that? You have to safeguard it by not getting stressed, like, what am I going to eat? Because then it gets, it's like, where am I going to get my next food? That's why I meal prep. I don't like to go into a complete starvation mode, because then it starts thinking, what's going on? I'm under attack. That's why I do, that's why I eat my morning breakfast in the morning. That's why I write my goals down.
Interesting. Yeah, you're sort of prefrontal cortexing your way to preventing your monkey brain from overriding.
Absolutely.
You're leveraging your strong suits by prioritizing and by taking the load off the other areas of the brain that would otherwise become victim to your fatigue.
Yeah. One thing that I did, I would say in the last 6 months, which has been monumental to my workday, is I don't take calls before midday. Yeah, or maybe before 11 a.m. So I used to take calls like, okay, if someone needed to book a call, I'd be on there at 8 a.m. if they needed to. And that was increasing a lot of stress for me, and it didn't allow me to have a proper morning routine either. It didn't allow me to do my work. And so that's something that I've implemented. I know that that's something not everyone can do, but if you can find time to just block out an area of your morning where it's just for you, get clear, get thinking, like find peace in that morning. It helps you become a more productive person throughout the day.
What's your take on time chunking? And,
I love it.
Okay, so being able to consolidate specific areas. What's sort of the minimum time that we need? Because from what I understand, our brain doesn't have the ability to multitask. We can just task switch, right? We can just it takes sort of I call it like a mobilization fee. Like every time you switch tasks, it's like, got to ramp up and spool up the turbo, right? So is there a length of time, like say someone's starting their day, they're like, okay, I did all this stuff, I did a little bit of ice shower or anything, or a cold shower, I did my exercise, I got some sunlight, I got a good breakfast, I did this. Now it's time to actually start the work day, but it's still morning and I still consider it part of the routine. Like, is there an optimal way to chunk your time that leverages the most out of your brain performance?
I would say 90 minutes, because that's what I do. I actually just focus on a specific task for 90 minutes, and then I have a timer that goes off. So if I'm going to set myself, you can do this either 45 minutes or 90 minutes, depending on how much you have to get done. But right now I'm writing a systematic review, and it's taking up a lot of time. It's going to be around 10,000 words. So it's a lot, but if I spend 6 hours doing that, I've completely ruined myself. So I spend 90 minutes doing it, and then maybe I'll go for like a 10-minute walk. And then I'll come back and get back into that 90 minutes. So I chunk my time like that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's amazing the difference it makes, like when you when you have when you don't have enough time and that's looming over your head, if you've only got 15 minutes to get something done, it's like just the ability to focus just seems that much worse. I mean, I guess if you had, the pressure was really on you, sometimes you get a lot done in that time period. But generally speaking, if the time's too short, or as you mentioned, like having calls scheduled in the morning, I have a really difficult time getting good deep work done when I know something is looming like short in, just around the corner. It's like, okay, at 9:30 I've got a call. Well, I need to film some videos. It's like I never schedule calls even remotely close to when I'm filming, because it's just, I need to get in that deep work. I need to get in that state where I can really function. And if I have that idea of the call, especially like breaking my continuity of thought, that's just doesn't work. It just destroys my performance.
And it takes time to get in. You can't just walk into a set and just get it. You have to really prime for that, don't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Just because it's viable within this conversation, what is your take on, you can, if you don't know, you don't know, but MCT oil as far as network stability, because there's kind of that interesting discussion there that independent of, like in a ketogenic state, MCT oil can increase brain energetics by improving network stability.
Well, okay, so yes, you're right. It's not my area of expertise. The only thing I can say is if you are going down that ketogenic path, because I've actually been supplementing with exogenous ketones, and you have to be I just don't see a point if you're having carbohydrates, okay, and then also ingesting the MCT oil on top of that. I think that I think you have to be in a pretty fasted state to get the effects from a neural perspective from these exogenous ketones and MCTs.
I tend to agree. I think, the research is so out there, because I can't remember the paper specifically, but there's a couple that talk about network stability with specifically ketones, but also with MCT oil. And from what it seems like, this is speculative, but it seems as though MCT oil absorbs so rapidly that you actually get a little bit of an adrenaline dump from it, because it absorbs directly into the portal vein. So you get so what people think is this ketogenic like feeling, it's really just norepinephrine for a short amount of time, similar to so could there be a benefit? Perhaps if you respond to it, but I'm inclined to think the same thing. It's like every time I combine it with carbohydrates, I don't seem to get the effect. But if I am in a deeper ketogenic state or fasted, I most certainly do.
Yeah, and you can do that. So when I was in a fasted state, I was just having experimental purposes. I was having exogenous ketones, and it did amazing. It did wonders for my brain. It did wonders for me being able to focus throughout the day. I was able to focus longer. It actually served as an appetite suppressant, which I also loved. And I was like, this is odd. When it comes to the literature, what's really great when it comes to ketones and NFL athletes, because as well we're trying to safeguard their brains, what they found is that it protects them from post-traumatic insults. So let's just say they are going in and they are going to get their head smacked in, which it's NFL, that's going to happen. Being able to use ketones as a fuel source to protect their brains against that hit has actually been shown to be really great as well. And ketones, exogenous ketones, within a 48-hour time frame after being hit actually serves really great as well to help their brain get back into the right state.
Yeah, there's huge bodies of literature coming out on that, and I do a lot of work with the special operations, and even with 10th Special Forces Group, they specifically have a protocol where if someone feels that they have suffered a microblast or a TBI, and with the military it's these microblasts all the time, right? Like NFL, it's taking big hits. Military, it's mortar round 100 yards away where you don't feel like maybe it's impacting you, but it's still these microblasts. But they actually have ketogenic 8-week protocols now, including exogenous ketones plus nutritional ketogenic states to modulate that inflammatory response and kind of re-regulate. So that's an area of research that's very, very fascinating. And I guess with not going off too far on a tangent, but exogenous ketones in tandem with carbohydrates in the absence of exercise don't seem to do a whole lot from what I've seen. But under high exercise demand, you potentially put yourself in a spot where you have the ability to temporarily be dual fueled, both glycolytic and ketogenic at the same time, which is a super physiological state because you're never going to have the presence of insulin and ketones together. Yeah. So it's almost like, okay, maybe there's a place there for someone that's under high physical demand while at the same time under high cognitive demand.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I like to say is don't be so dramatic with everything. I always ask people, like, why would you want to take ketones? That's the first starting point. And I actually have a lot of ultra endurance athletes, and they ask me, like, Louisa, like mid-race, like when I hit the 50-kilometer mark, should I be ingesting ketones or should I be ingesting carbohydrates? So it depends as well on who you are and what you do. Everything should be deliberate and everything should be individualized. Our morning routines, like I said at the start, everyone's morning routine is different. It's dependent on what you want to get out during the day. Your food comes down to what are your goals, and your exercise comes down to what are you optimizing for. Are you optimizing for a triathlon, or are you optimizing for longevity? So if you are going to ingest MCT or ketones, ask yourself what it is.
Yeah, don't just do it because it's trendy.
Yeah.
I think, the takeaway from this, which you've said so eloquently, is, in a lot of ways, it almost doesn't matter what your routine is. Just have a routine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you could get nuanced with it and detailed, but it sounds like, every time I go through life and I don't have that routine is when I feel like things fall apart.
Oh yeah.
But I've had, 100 different routines in my life, and every state of time that I have a routine is better than when I don't.
Yeah.
I could cherry pick which routine is probably better for me and whatnot, but all of them are better than having no routine and aimlessly floating through social media right when I roll out of bed.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
All right. So Louisa, where can everyone find you?
I hang out a lot on Instagram, so it's Louisa Nicola, or they can find me on my podcast, The Neuro Experience.
Beautiful. Well, as always, keep it locked in here on my channel, and thank you so much.
Thank you.